So you thought there was only going to be one NASCAR video today, huh? Well, think again. Who had this in 2020? Bingo. Now, Cup cars have been around Circuit of the Americas before. You're seeing footage of when Martin Truex Jr. did some laps in 2013. There was also, just last year, some Haas F1 drivers as well as Tony Stewart doing laps before last year's United States Grand Prix. So it's not completely unheard of NASCAR Cup cars going around Circuit of the Americas, but certainly a points-paying Cup race. This is huge for Circuit of the Americas. Now, the question, of course, is going to be, what about Eddie Gossage? We know Eddie Gossage and Circuit of the Americas, they don't really get along very well. So what will Texas Motor Speedway get out of this? Well, the first thing is that Texas Motor Speedway is actually losing one of its points-paying races. Now, how did they sell this to Eddie Gossage? Well, again, according to the Athletic article, this means that the All-Star race, which was held in Bristol this year, has been traditionally held in Charlotte, will be moving to Texas Motor Speedway in May. That is going to be, in my opinion, exceedingly unpopular. I think there's going to be a lot of people upset about that. Will the announcement of Circuit of the Americas offset that? We'll have to see. But Circuit of the Americas itself really needed this boost. Allow me to explain. So this year was an extremely difficult year for Circuit of the Americas as a track. They lost pretty much all their major events. IndyCar, certainly the United States Grand Prix, MotoGP, lost all of those events. Now, they've had some smaller events there, but certainly not the ones that bring home the bacon. And quite honestly, there has been a lot of talk about the not-so-bright future of Circuit of the Americas. What was the track going to do? IndyCar, from what I understand, is not going to go back there next year. They're apparently, and again, back to Eddie Gossage not liking Circuit of the Americas so much, there's a rumor out there that one of the deals to get IndyCar to run that primetime season opener at Texas Motor Speedway with no fans, one of the caveats of that was that Roger Penske agreed to not go back to Circuit of the Americas next year for IndyCar. So that's one race gone. Obviously, with the travel restrictions, Formula One was not at all a realistic possibility this year. It may not be a realistic possibility next year. And even if it is, there's a possibility that F1, and this may point to Roger Penske feeling a little bit a certain way about Circuit of the Americas, there's a possibility that the United States Grand Prix will happen at Indianapolis Motor Speedway and not Circuit of the Americas next year. So, NASCAR, the Cup Series in particular, getting a race date, a points-paying race date at Circuit of the Americas is huge news for Circuit of the Americas. They are going to sell a butt-ton of tickets to that race. It is going to be a major moneymaker, especially when you bring that track into the TV deal NASCAR has, gets them some TV money. To be honest with you, this could be something that saves Circuit of the Americas as a racetrack, believe it or not. What is the racing going to be like there? Certainly, I think fans have opened their minds quite a bit to road racing in NASCAR with stock cars. And certainly, you look at when they added the Roval, and obviously that's a little bit of a unique circumstance. But that track in particular has been very popular the first few times they've run it. And I think you're going to be in for a very chaotic race at Circuit of the Americas. Is it going to be as chaotic as the Roval? That remains to be seen. But you look at when IndyCar went there for the first time and the track limits controversies, there's a lot of room to spread out at a NASCAR event. And I think you need to look no further than Watkins Glen to know whether or not they're going to enforce track limits. So you're going to have situations where there's potential for 5 or 6 wide racing, coming in and out of these corners. There's going to be 3 or 4 or 5 different lanes you'll be able to take through some of the corners at Circuit of the Americas. Again, whether or not they enforce track limits. My guess, again, based on precedent, they won't. So it's going to be insane. The long back straightaway at Circuit of the Americas, that is like tailor-made for stock cars, especially if they're running a low downforce, high horsepower situation. They're going to get a huge run coming down that corner, and whoever gets off of the little hairpin before they get to that main back straightaway, they could, again, 3 and 4 wide going into braking zones. There's a real potential that this is going to be a very, very exciting event. Speaking of events that maybe aren't going to be quite as exciting, is the All-Star Race moving to Texas Motor Speedway. Oh, that one hurts. Oh, that one hurts. Because I think fans in particular were so excited that it moved to Bristol this year. I think the fans got a relatively interesting product there. I mean, it wasn't the greatest thing I've ever seen, the All-Star Race at Bristol. But again, when you compare it to what has happened at Charlotte in recent years, I think there was room. And certainly if you look at the race just this weekend at Bristol, that was a fantastic race. And if you could put something like that on for the All-Star Race, there's the potential that that track can produce that kind of a race. Texas? When was the last time Texas for Cup had a great race? And certainly since the reconfiguration of Texas Motor Speedway, maybe we can cross our fingers and this deal involves enough money to Eddie Gossage that he'll tear down 1 and 2 at Texas Motor Speedway and put up the old banking. Otherwise, the All-Star Race goes back to being a relatively I don't want to say pointless because that's probably too negative. It's not going to be an event that is marked on people's calendars. People are not going to be going, man, I can't wait for the All-Star Race. Unless they pull a real big rabbit out of their hat and do something completely insane for it, it is what it is. It's kind of back to tradition with the All-Star Race kind of being a race that you don't really circle on the calendar. I think a lot of people are going to be circling Circuit of the Americas and that debut for NASCAR on the calendar. That is going to be incredibly interesting to see what happens. There will be a lot of drama, a lot of Formula One hot takes coming from Formula One Twitter. You know that's coming. But at a whole, and it'd also be interesting too, one of my more popular videos is a lap time comparison with a bunch of different race cars at Circuit of the Americas. We'll be able to add Cup to that list now as well. It'll be interesting to see how they stack up against a GT car lap time wise. It's not going to be great. And also because the length of the lap is going to be so long, I wonder if they're going to use a short course, or I hope they use the full course because that will be best case scenario. But there are so many things up in the air right now. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Do you think NASCAR going to Circuit of the Americas is a good thing, a bad thing? What do you think about the All-Star Race moving to Texas Motor Speedway? I can't wait to read all of your comments. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been David Land on YouTube, and we'll see you in the next video.